Not the headline you want to see as we close a year. 16 million Kenyans living below poverty line. Talking about social imbalance, even as you talk about the big four, how do you use that to bring these people to a point where they can actually have a better quality of life when it comes to basic needs and the general quality of life as well? We'll be talking about that, of course, and plenty more as we get into our newspaper review this morning.
All right, later on we get into interactive. All the trending stories, whether it's your grandmother who was dancing to packaging or it is your sister who, I don't know, did something very weird. Well, that story is definitely coming up on Interactive from 7:30 all the way till 8.
Okay, and then our social hour comes your way from 8 to 9. And this is the perfect discussion to have this time of the year as we talk about the importance of giving back. How do we actually develop that culture? And can we borrow from different religions and cultures within our, of course, our country? And so today we have a fantastic panel coming your way, but please let us know how you plan on giving back this season.
Okay, so you know what we need to be doing. 'Tis the season, as you can see, and want to know what you'll be doing as well. You can tweet us at K24TV. You can also SMS us, as always, on 21222. We'll start off by looking at the roads. In case you passed on one of those roads that Mbuvi didn't see, that there had been some quite sufficient rain, please tweet us, send a tweet pic, a video as well for him to actually see what was happening right there. Then straight after your traffic update, we get into our newspaper review. Good morning.
We did experience some light showers overnight, so you can expect a few roads to be wet, in the city. But that being said, we do ask that you exercise a little bit of caution because the roads may be slippery this morning as you head out for your early appointments. We do want to monitor those roads for you via our satellite feed, and let's take a look at some of those major routes before we hand over to Jeff for the newspaper review. I'm going to start things off from Mombasa Road today, and here we are at City Cabanas. Let's just kick things off and make our way to the Nyayo Stadium roundabout so that we can actually progress, see if we can make it to as far as Gong Road and Wayaki Way. Here is Southfield Mall. As you can see, it is green, which is a good indicator that the roads are absolutely clear at this particular time. We always do expect a little of a snarl up around the Imaradaiva station and the turning right there, but surprisingly, this morning, it's quite clear, so that's good news. And of course, as you approach Samir, you can see there's a little bit of a snarl up here, but nothing major to report or even to worry about because it does open up as you approach Bombil, and then you can see traffic is actually moving. Here we are making our way past Capital Center, and we have made it to Nyayo Stadium. That's that little circle on your screen right there. Of course, perhaps at this time you can expect the traffic lights to be working, or perhaps there are traffic police right around here controlling the cars on the road. So nothing major to report. You can just exercise a little bit of patience as you approach the roundabout, and from there you are good to go as you approach the CBD. Here we are making our way to Langata Road. For those of you coming from this area and you use this route every single morning, what are the roads, or rather what is the road looking like for you? Let me back things up a little bit to where Galleria Mall is, and then make my way back to T Mall roundabout. And so here it is on your map. This is Bomas of Kenya, and that is Galleria Mall. I'm gonna zoom in if I can slightly there. Here you can see it on your screen. Making our way back down past the cemetery, the barracks, and here we are, of course, with that intersection for the Southern Bypass. Look at that. It is clear. This is a good time to start heading out if you're coming from Rongai. If you live, of course, in Karen and, of course, along Langata Road, it's a fantastic time to start heading out. I can see also around Wilson Airport, it's quite clear, which is surprising. We always get a little bit of a red line just right around the Wilson Amref area, indicating that, of course, traffic coming in and out of the airport. But today, it is quite clear. Bagavi Way is also a key route that we we, take a look at every morning, because it's a link road, actually, for those of you coming from Mombasa Road, Langata Road, trying to make your way towards the Kilimani area. And so Bagabi Way, so far so good. Things are looking good. A big shout out to those from Riara University who always watch the show every morning. Thank you so much. As you can see, Bagabi Way is actually quite clear. This is good news. Here we are at the Kenyatta National Hospital roundabout, and this brings us to Kilimani Gong Road area. Here we are past Coptic Hospital, and of course we've made our way very quickly to Prestige Plaza. I will zoom in slightly so you can actually see what the roads are looking like. This is that intersection that leads, the brand new road that leads into Kibera, and the one that you see going up your screen actually heads towards Yaya Center. That's it right there. Here is Prestige Plaza, another key point that we actually take a look at every morning, because with the traffic lights around here and of course this intersection, you can expect a little bit of a snarl up, and you can even see that red line as you're approaching or going up Gong Road. There is a bit of traffic here, but nothing major, of course, to report as far as that is concerned. Let me try and make my way to Junction Mall, and here we are at Adams Arcade. Just a quick heads up for those of you who, of course, are going to be using Gong Road this morning. Keep in mind that it has turned into a single lane way on Gong Road between Adams and between around Posta, or should I say at least, let me move that, where the Oledume Road junction is. And so what has happened is that the dual carriage is closed, and so you do have it turning into a single way. So please be careful because there's a huge diversion that actually takes place, at least, or is present between Posta and right here Adams Arcade. But then after that, it does open up and the roads are quite clear as you head down towards Kenyatta National Hospital. And it's an amazing drive. So far, so good. Look at this. Here is Swedish School, and here is that Kibera Road, Kibera Station Road junction. And so here we are. We've made our way to the Junction Mall. Things have really progressed around here. We did see this particular section on Kingara Road closed for a couple of days, and that's because of the cable works that were, taking place. But now it seems like they are actually done, and so now the road has been opened up, easing the traffic around the Junction Mall. And so you can expect, of course, a fantastic, enjoyable drive, if you ask me, as you head on down Gong Road. But that being said, here is Kingara Road, another link road that actually takes us to Lavington. And so that famous dip is looking good this morning. Look at that. It's green all the way. And here we are. We have landed at that Gitanga Road junction. Also quite a busy area, by the way. Of course, Amboseli, with lots of institutions around this area and a couple of offices opening up. You can expect James Gishuru and, of course, this Amboseli area to be quite busy, even as early as 6 a.m. But for today, we can see that it's good news for you if you're going to be using this route. Here we are, of course, at Lavington Mall, also another area to take a look at because, with traffic moving in and out of the shopping mall, parents dropping their kids to school, you can expect a little bit of a snarl up and, spending lots of time on the road as far as Lavington area is concerned. And here is St. Mary's School, and here we are at the Muthangari Police Station, and we've made our way to James Gishuru, at least ABC area. This brings us to Wayaki Way, one of the major routes that we also take a look at and like to monitor every single morning. How are you doing if you're coming from Kangemi, if you're coming even from Limuru and the greater area? Why don't you let us know how things are looking today? Always, giving you a heads up as far as Wayaki Way is concerned. If you're coming down the highway, from the areas of Rironi and Limuru and beyond, we do know that there's lots of road works currently underway. And so we're going to ask you yet again to exercise caution as you come down the highway. We know visibility is quite an issue around that area at this particular time. So please, drive slow, take it easy, arrive alive. And of course, keep in mind of those diversions and of course, excavation points along Wayaki Way. Here we are at Mountain View and making my way past the Soko. Here we are at the Sodom stage. We do know that they are also expanding the road, by the way, on Wayaki Way. And so you do need to keep that in mind as you come down the highway. Here's Waroko. Here we are yet again at ABC. Of course, you always do expect a little bit of a snarl up around here because of this brand new road that leads into Peponi. But so far, so good. It's quite clear this morning. And even as we wind up our traffic watch this morning, let me stop things right here past St. Mark's. And here we are at that Westlands roundabout. And we stop here at Chiromo and at the museum overpass. So that is your traffic update. So far, so good. We've taken a look at 3 to 4 major routes this morning, but we cannot do this alone, as I say every single day. Continue to be our eyes and our ears on the roads. Talk to us on our social media platforms and tell us how things are looking on your side of town at K24TV on Instagram, Facebook, and go ahead and send us a tweet pic if you can.
Welcome back. Now that you know how the roads are looking this morning, I believe you're sufficiently informed as far as that's concerned. Good news is that traffic isn't that heavy, of course, the closer we get to Christmas. Speaking of the news, though, let's look at the big stories, of course, in our dailies this morning. We look at the front page, then, of course, I get to my panel as well. Start off the front page of the PD. 16 million Kenyans living below poverty line. UNDP reports paints a grim picture of growing inequalities between the rich and the poor, with close to 40% of the population living on less than 200 shillings a day. This is a report that you can get in detail in your copy of your PD this morning. Also, on the PD's front page, Wajinga Nyinyi Solidarity, musician Kennedy Ombema, a.k.a. King Kaka, joined by activist Boniface Mwangi, Giuliani, and others in a show of unity outside the DCI headquarters in Nairobi yesterday. King Kaka said he had been summoned by police over his latest song, Wajinga Nyinyi, but the detectives denied it. Story that you can get, of course, in your copy of your PD this morning. Also on the front page of the PD, Manduku running out of options in 2.7 billion shilling probe. The details of that particular story right there in your copy of your PD. Also, MCAs accused Speaker Alachi of joining camp blocking Sonko impeachment. Some of the stories that you can get this morning as you grab your PD. Front page of the Standard this time round. Raila's big U-turn on PM post. ODM drops push for executive prime minister and single 7-year presidential term. Party says the BBI process is consultative and no party or individual should dictate the process or outcome. And eyes on 2022, top leaders say party goals have not changed and that they're consistent with those of the BBI. That's the big story on your Standard this morning. Lead by example, MPs tell Uhuru on conflict of interest. Lawmakers accuse president of double speak, saying he's a beneficiary of their free legal services. Well, if the shoe fits, that's a question they're saying. And, of course, it's a story that you can get in your copy of the Standard this morning. Front page of the Star, ODM wants powerful PM and 2 deputies. MPs corner party leader Raila with radical amendments to BBI report. Fresh push is likely to trigger political fireworks with DP Ruto and his allies. And it's a story that you can get, of course, in detail in your copy of your Star this morning. Also, the picture on the front page of the Star, President Kenyatta and People Republic of China's envoy Wang Yong during the launch of the SGR flight operations yesterday in Syokimau. That's a story that you can get right there. Then the front page of the Daily Nation. Raila's party demands a powerful prime minister. ODM also wants a referendum held by mid-next year. Other wishes that the party wants is the prime minister should be appointed by parliament. One of the deputy prime ministers should be less than 45 years old. Excuse me. Shareable revenue between national and county governments should be based on last audited financial report. Removal of proposal limiting IEBC officers to preside over only one election. Removal of restriction of procurement officers to a 2-year contract. Those are the details that you can get in your copy of the Daily Nation. Front page of the Business Daily. Electricity cost in largest drop since August 2018. Factories and homes set to save 1 billion shillings in their December bills after heavy rains reduce use of thermal power. So that's good news on the electricity front, but there's much for us to discuss this morning. Let me get to my panel as we do exactly that today. Once again, joined by PD Managing Editor Ken Bosiri. Good morning.
Morning to you.
And of course, Advocate of the High Court Dennis Anyoko. Good morning as well.
Morning, Jeff.
Let's look at the front page of the PD. There's a report that the UNDP had also published a couple of, I think last week, and it was covered in the Business Daily, concerning the development index as far as the country was concerned. And they were saying, by and large, the quality of life has improved, standard of living has improved. But when we look at this, the question still remains, because for the average Kenyan, even those who pay attention to the figures that are thrown around by, Treasury, when the president says the economy has grown, yet I still can't afford the basic necessities that I need for my house, the numbers just don't make sense. They don't add up for the average Kenyan. Ken?
Really, that's the reality. There is a disparity between what we call the GDP. The GDP takes the general average of what the country earns and divides it across all the living souls in that country, in any given state. But the Human Development Index is the new instrument that measures the wealth and what the welfare around you as an individual. And this is in line with what we call the SDGs, because it looks at our access to very basic services like health, education, and other forms of infrastructure. And the truth is, while we may have as a country, accumulated wealth, there is remarkable growth in terms when it comes to the figures of percentage growth, because the report says that in that same period, the economy grew by about 1.6%, that wealth of the country. But then, how is it shareable? That has been the challenge for us as Kenyans. While we have a lot of that wealth, it's accumulated in a very few things. So it doesn't quite trickle down to the people. And that is a general feeling that that gap in Kenya is the one that has been growing. More wealth in the hands of a few people as more people drop through the ranks to the lower ranks of living.
Right.
Yeah, because if they're saying that there are about 40% of Kenyans who live on under 200 shillings a day. I don't, you measure that, how much that means. It's so little, and yet that is the bulk of the population. It goes back to what we are saying, have we created the basics that can manage to put money at the grassroots? When the SMEs are not doing well, that means money is not trickling to the very small person.
Right.
When the agricultural sector, which is the key employer, is depressed, that means more people are not accessing that wealth. We can talk about the mall economy, the big infrastructure projects, but that still doesn't trickle down to where we are.
Right.
And this is really, for me, the challenge that measures how far have we gone. Because whatever cake we have, we must be able to distribute it. But that is not apparent. So we must get back to making sure that the smaller person begins to feel that I'm participating in this economy, not just because other people are creating and I'm squeezing a bit of it down the road. It must be all of us. How do we get everybody on board? It's a very damning report. Though there is a positive side that our life expectancy has improved because of better health, infrastructure, and I think we can use this as a report, not as a condemnation, but as a way of building into what we have to know which are the sectors that need intervention to help everybody be part of this economy, the wealth that we've created. And of course, welfarist kind of interventions like giving people UHC, you're saying a particular segment of people has to be supported, need to come in, but we need to be produce and bake the cake. But currently, that doesn't seem to be the one that we are baking much of the cake. We are doing more of an import economy as opposed to an export economy.
Dennis, let me come to you because we are coming from a point of view where even the CBK governor, Njoroge, was also talking about the fact that, yes, we are talking about improvement in GDP, but unfortunately you can't eat GDP, and that's the circumstances on the ground right now. Ken has spoken about, UHC helping in terms of access to healthcare, but you went to do a free medical camp the other day in your area. So the big question is, how do we distill all of these grand ideas we have to get to the actual grassroots where they're needed the most?
I think, Jeff, there is a disconnect between the policymakers when it comes to assessing how well the human beings or the country is doing and the reality on the ground. You will talk of free healthcare, but you will realize that in reality, the healthcare that is supposed to be free is not available. You go to the local hospitals, you can't get medicine, you get doctors and the medical staff, they are not able to do their work because they are not even being paid. And there's a whole lot of problems that affects the generality of the benefit that people should get from the services. So that you find in reality, there is, even the number could be way higher than 40% from this report on people who cannot really afford their daily living. Even when you talk about those below 200 shillings, there could be so many of them within that bracket who can't even afford 50 shillings in a day.
Right.
So there's a disconnect between the figures that the economists and other people want to put to the paper and show that the country is doing well and the reality on the ground.
Right.
And I think we need to, the leadership of the country and those in position of authority, they need to put a pause and ask themselves, could they change the way they are doing things so that then we deal with the real issues that affect the people and ensure that we are really trickling down the benefit to the people at the grassroots level. Because as we speak, you find that people are dealing with, and it's more, for me, if you ask me, it's more of a political thing. You want to put up figures to show that as a government you've done well. When in reality, it's a question of averaging, it's a question of computation, it's a question of putting factors. You know, if you affect one, if you vary one factor, the result could be different. If you talk about an average of what people get, that does not mean that people have money in the pocket. If 20 people have the bulk of the wealth and they are put together with the rest who don't have, and we average, obviously those who don't have will be seen that they should be having about 200 shillings. But the reality is all this money is in one person's pocket. Today, there are more medical facilities in Nairobi, referral hospitals, where they are you could get a bit of service, even if it's affordable, compared to other regions.
Right.
You can't get the same service elsewhere. And in Nairobi, you will get private hospitals. They're giving services. You'll be able to afford healthcare. I mean, maybe not that I afford, but it's even accessible within Nairobi. In the rural areas where we have so many other Kenyans, you can't even get those private hospitals having their facilities there because it's costly, the people don't have money, there is no incentive for them to put out the facilities there, so it becomes a problem. So really there is a big disconnect, and this is what is explained by very many artists. When you hear artists singing and calling Kenyans wajinga nyinyi, it's because they are not able to really appreciate that these general figures that we are looking at does not really change the status and the well-being of the people at the grassroots level.
Right. And even as I look at this, because some of the figures put on the front page at a glance, our ranking in terms of 2018 inequalities index, Kenya's dropped 5 places from position 142 to 2017, with 36% of the population living on less than 200 shillings a day, 40% of population of poor Kenyans who shared country's GDP with 1.6% between 2005 to 2018. National cake estimated at 8 trillion Kenya shillings. And looking at a scenario where even as this was being done, we hadn't yet experienced the layoffs that we've experienced, the shrinking economy that we felt this year. So as we go into 2018, if you were to look into a crystal ball with what we've seen so far in terms of how the economy is moving in the direction that it is, how do we get ourselves out of what seems to be a downward trajectory? Because things haven't been looking exactly up in 2019.
Yeah, one of the things is, like Clay says, these figures are very conservative. They're very conservative.
So they could be worse. It could be worse.
They could be worse. They are worse. They are worse. You don't need rocket science to see that the figures are worse. You know, when you're doing statistics, it's a whole science. But the truth is that there is what we call almost a population landslide into that depth. And the only thing we can do, and we've spoken on this program, that there are key interventions where we must reverse the trajectory of the arrows, which is investing in the basics, because 80% of Kenyans live in the rural areas. And what is the rural economy based? We are not manufacturers. There was a whole grandiose policy about value addition. You value add the agricultural products, because no country has ever industrialized without stabilizing its agricultural base. It's the primary pillar to industrialization. But yet, what do we see? On the reverse, we are not investing more. When you talk about food security, where does the food come from? People have to produce the food. Do you give incentives to farmers? But I think going forward, as a country, we must begin to be realistic. We must step back and introspect and have realistic expectations where we need to cut down and put. Right now, we have placed a lot of premium in politics. There we have no problem in injecting 500 million in a day, in an hour. Look at the headlines. Everybody's talking about the shareable cake among the very minute elite. The politics, I want this position because of inclusivity. But a whole chunk of population is being left out of this. No wonder you feel like all of us are like Muppeteers being dragged along across the political divide and forgetting fixing and the future and what Kenya means is getting the economy. It's the bloodline of any nation. All these other things we discuss is vanity. If we could balance between our desires for other things and begin to get people to produce more investments. The other day there was a demand by the Treasury that we need to pay pending bills. Where do we have pending bills? People had small businesses that started. Those businesses went down. I think there should be more pressure. Both the national government seems to concentrate more on counties paying the pending bills. But the national government has a new whole issue. Yesterday we had people going to the Department of Corrective Services who have not been paid for 10 years.
Right.
So what does it mean if I take a loan to supply some boga to some prison service and you don't pay me for 10 years, I have nothing.
Right.
I'm going to be foreclosed. So that's what we are saying, very basic things that we need. They don't need us to sit in boardrooms. It just needs, Jeff, you owe this money. Where did you take it? Okay. Treasury budgeted for it, get it down. It's just executing and holding everybody to accountable. If you're in the Ministry of Agriculture, where are the subsidies we give to the farmers? Okay,
Dennis, let me come to you before you go to a break very quickly, because among the 4 pillars of the Big Four, we have food security in there, which is something that, as we've spoken about, if we are more keen to agriculture and value addition, probably wouldn't be seeing the numbers that we are seeing. From where you stand, do you feel that this is going to be effective by the time 2022 comes along, or is it a longer-term goal?
I don't think that we are likely as a country to achieve anything, even on the Big Four agenda or the 4 pillars that the government is looking at. I've always said that the Jubilee government is doing more politics about everything than really having interest in ensuring that we have the Kenyans move forward. If it was a government that intended to move the country forward, there is a position where the Kibaki administration left the country. By the time the Kibaki government was getting off power, we had the industries that were getting back into life. There was funds. In fact, I remember there was the talk of another city, a techno city. That was a beautiful dream, because then we could have had manufacturing industries and technology being injected into the economic, operations of this country. But that did not happen. So what we've seen was a beautiful manifesto for 2013. In 2017, it was beefed up. It looked more prettier to any Kenyan, appetizing. But soon after they were elected into office, they felt, look, we can't do this. We are looking at now Big Four. Before they could start even implementing the Big Four, there are the political issues on who is to be in what position. There's a 2022 power play that is at hand. The Jubilee itself is so divided that nothing can happen. So really, we are not likely to see anything. If it's a government that is already asking that it be given a larger bandwidth within which they can borrow, we are not giving us a plan on where to invest. We are borrowing to pay. Even this payment, Jeff, you'll be surprised. This money that the government keeps says that pay the pending bills, it's not being paid. You find the money that is being, I talk to a lot of business people out there, still they cannot get this money to pay their stakeholders. They are always having these declarations for PR reasons. But when you go to the actual execution of even those instructions, the funds are not being paid.
Okay, let's take a break at that particular point. We want your take on this as well. From that particular headline, lots of questions to ask as we jump into a new year. How do we just restart and rejig what some of the missing pieces in our puzzle to get the economy moving forward? You can tweet us at K24TV. You can also SMS us as always on 21222. Back after the break, talking about the protest and show of solidarity, as you could see at the DCI headquarters yesterday, as far as the Wajinga Nyinyi song is concerned, but also some of the other papers talking about Raila's big U-turn on PM post. That's what the Standard says. But 2 other papers, contrasting that particular headline, saying that ODM does want powerful PM and 2 deputies. That going with the Star and the Daily Nation talking about Raila's party demanding a powerful PM. We'll talk about that after the break.